Have you ever seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross? And if you haven't, don't sweat it. I'm going to put a link to the bottom. But there's this awesome scene in it. And it's Alec Baldwin's only role in the entire movie. And he comes in and he just kicks the crap out of these salesmen. Not literally, but figuratively. He gets in their face, he yells at them, he fires them up to go out there and be better salesmen, depending on your point of view. Some people think he's just a jerk. But there's this iconic moment where he flips over the chalkboard that he has behind him and he points at two acronyms, which are very famous. The first one, ABC, always be closing, right? He wants his guys to be selling all the time. And then the second one is less recognizable to people outside of the sales world. You might have seen it and then just not remembered it, but it goes like this. AIDA, attention, interest, decision, action. And I think this one is even more important because for someone, yeah, I want to sell. How do I sell? I want to motivate people. How do I do it? This is the framework. This is how you go about doing it. And if you think back to the story part of Charisma University, you might be wondering, wait a second, like, I got a framework for stories, I got a framework for motivating, like how am I supposed to keep all this straight? Well, the good news is this is the framework for stories, just with a tiny little switch at the end that gets people actually to move. And I want to run through exactly how they correspond. So first part, attention, right? That is the opening hook of a story. You've got to get people's attention, whether it's with body language or telling them that they need to listen up or giving them a good reason. Interest. This is the rising action of the story, right? You have to earn their continued attention. You can crack jokes, you can go about it in any number of ways, you can talk about things that are pertinent to them, but you need to continue to hook their interest and build a bit of tension. The third part, decision. I think of it as decision/desire. That corresponds with the climax. And in a story, the climax is that emotional high point, right? It's where the laugh comes, where you pull on somebody's heartstrings. It's where that moment of shock is. In a story or a presentation where you're trying to motivate people, the moment of decision is where you take really the climax of whatever story you're telling, but you have to flip it back on the person. So just to give a quick hypothetical, say that you're talking about or you're telling a tale of somebody who, really struggled to lose weight, did all this stuff and was able to do it. And this climactic moment is when they see, I don't know, their ex, and their ex cannot believe how great a shape they're in. And the ex wants to get back and they say no because they have this new sense of self-esteem. This is coming out of the top of my head. That's going to be the climactic moment, but what you need to do when you're trying to motivate people is really drive home and flip it back to them. Make this a moment of decision for them. So you might say things like, imagine how that feels. Like, would you want that to be you, or do you want to be the type of person that never experiences that? You force a decision in that moment, in that emotional high point when you've got them primed. And then the last part is action. This is the resolution. Now, in stories, it's where you sort of have the moral. Honestly, if it's funny, you can just drop off because, hey, there is no moral. We're just trying to have fun. When you're trying to motivate people, this is the part that is the most critical. People forget it, right? I've seen people do wonderfully. They have these really inspirational tales. They get up there, people are fired up, motivated. They go, all right, like, welcome aboard. We're going to do this together. It's been nice seeing you. Hasta luego. And they're out. And eventually, all of that motivation that they build up in their audience fizzles and nothing changes. So this action part, this is where you give people a concrete step right then that they can do to ensure, or at least put them on the trajectory to continue down this path. So if it's this weightlifting example, it might be, all right, put on your calendar right now, call the personal trainer, sign up for a session on Monday. You're going to commit yourself to the future. Something that I have to do when I'm coaching clients is right there, I need to get them to commit to changing a behavior in the future. And since they're on the phone with me, I can't always have them do it, but what I'll say is, all right, when is the next time you're likely to feel, insecure, nervous, whatever, where you want to clam up? And they'll say, at work during this meeting. I say, okay, prepare for this mentally, and I want you to set a calendar reminder or a phone reminder, whatever works best for you. But when you walk into that room, make sure, I want you to be thinking open body, a lot of stuff that we've talked about. I give them a concrete action, and that's what you have to do as well if you ultimately want to not just motivate people, but have them follow through and see things change. So right now, I want to go to a great example of a story that uses this formula over and over again in the small parts and then over the aggregate of the story. It's Tony Robbins. He is a master influencer, like one of the best I've ever seen. So let's get into that now.